There was a very old museum. The walls of the museum were adorned with thousands of historical photographs, among which were some that seemed alive, so eerie that they could only be described as haunted photographs, bâti tasvir. The museum had been closed for several years, which had put an end to the accidents that used to occur there. However, a government order reopened the doors to the museum, unwittingly inviting the townspeople back into the jaws of death. Excitement was palpable among the people, but some elderly individuals, who were familiar with the haunted history of the museum, were not pleased with the decision. They feared the reopening would unleash horrors again. A sense of dread began to loom over the town. The museum was scheduled to be open to the public from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. On the opening day, crowds of people gathered, forming long lines to buy tickets. As visitors were admitted one by one, they were stunned upon entering, for the eerie photographs were unlike anything they had ever seen. Some of the photos seemed to emanate a strange energy, as though they were attempting to communicate. Among the visitors was a family whose child suddenly went missing. Frantic, the parents searched every room of the museum but found no trace of their child. The museum security guard was informed and immediately checked the CCTV footage. While doing so, several other people approached the guard, reporting more missing individuals. To everyone's shock, the number of missing visitors kept increasing. The haunted photographs appeared to have cast their sinister spell on the very first day. Alarmed by the disappearances, the security guard called the police. Within moments, several police vehicles arrived at the museum, and the media quickly followed to cover the sensational story. Despite thoroughly searching the museum, no evidence of the missing persons could be found. A police officer's attention was drawn to a particular photograph on the wall. It depicted a man hanging upside down from a tree, with a ghostly woman standing behind him. The officer asked the guard whether this photograph had always been there. The guard, unfamiliar with the museum's history, sought answers from a curator. The curator revealed that the photographs were several centuries old. The officer found it suspicious that the people in the photographs looked like modern-day individuals, which seemed historically inaccurate. Further examination of the photographs revealed a chilling discovery: the people trapped in the images were the very individuals who had gone missing from the museum. Realizing that the situation was beyond their expertise, the police sought the help of a paranormal expert. The paranormal expert, using advanced techniques, confirmed the existence of ghostly entities in the museum. He explained that the haunted photographs were not man-made but had been retrieved from an ancient palace. According to historical rumors, a sorcerer had created the photographs on the orders of a king. The sorcerer had used his magical powers to imprison the king's enemies alive within the images, which were then locked away in the palace's basement for eternity. Over time, these cursed photographs found their way into the museum. The spirits of the people trapped in the images had become ghosts and were now attempting to escape into the real world by possessing living bodies. The expert revealed that there was only one way to free the trapped individuals: the photographs needed to be erased immediately using a special chemical. This chemical could dissolve the colors on paper within seconds. Fortunately, the required chemical was available. The challenge, however, was to erase all the photographs simultaneously. The expert instructed the police officers to position themselves in front of each haunted photograph and be ready to use the chemical powder. At the sound of a gunshot, all officers threw the powder on the photographs. A cloud of smoke filled the museum, obscuring everything. When the smoke cleared, to everyone's relief, the missing individuals were standing in front of the photographs, unharmed. Families rejoiced as they embraced their loved ones. As the rescued individuals were being escorted out of the museum, a sudden gunshot rang out, and panic ensued. Before anyone could comprehend what was happening, several more gunshots followed, and lives were lost. The police officers, seemingly possessed, had turned on the visitors. The paranormal expert realized that the spirits had transferred into the bodies of the police officers. The situation spiraled out of control as the expert, along with the police chief, narrowly escaped the museum. The doors were locked from the outside, putting an end to the chaos for the time being. Although the museum was sealed, the incident left the community questioning the government's decision to reopen it. While the haunted photographs were gone, the living ghosts now roamed within the museum walls. And with this, the first chapter of the story concluded. There was a very beautiful village named Birnagar, where all the residents lived happily. Everything in the village was going well, and during this time, a family from America came to stay in their ancestral home. The family consisted of a husband, wife, and their young son, and they came to reside in their mansion. As soon as they arrived, a wave of happiness spread among the villagers. This family belonged to a former landlord of the village, who was highly respected by the villagers. Everything seemed fine until one day, the child of this family suddenly started feeling unwell. Everyone assumed it was due to a change in the weather, but the reality was something entirely different. Slowly, the boy's face began turning blue. In a hurry, the family called a doctor, but even the doctor couldn't figure out the cause. He suggested taking the child to a nearby hospital for a thorough examination. The family followed the doctor's advice and took the child to the hospital. However, even after several tests, no diagnosis was made. When the family returned to the village, some of the elders, upon seeing the child's condition, advised them to visit an exorcist. In many villages, the old practice of healing through spiritual rituals and exorcism still persists. Desperate to save their child, the family agreed to visit the exorcist. Near the village, there was a hermit who lived in the hills and was also proficient in black magic. As soon as the family, along with the child, reached the steps of the hermit's ashram, the exorcist began shouting loudly, "Why have you come back after all these years? Even now, your vengeance is not satisfied." Hearing this, the child's parents and the villagers were terrified. They couldn't understand why the hermit was so angry, especially since no one had told him anything yet. However, being skilled in black magic, the hermit could sense spiritual forces. Everyone entered the ashram, but the hermit allowed only the child to approach him. The child was in a very critical state. His eyes had turned red, his body appeared blue, and his temperature was far higher than a regular fever. The hermit took some sacred ash and threw it on the child's face. The child fell to the ground and started flailing his arms and legs violently. No one could comprehend what was happening or what miracle had occurred after the ash was thrown. Suddenly, the child stood on his toes and, in a terrifying woman's voice, addressed the hermit by his old name, "Premnath, I will destroy you." Hearing the child's voice and seeing him in such a state, his parents were horrified. They couldn't understand why this was happening. The hermit then chanted a mantra and brought the child under his control. The villagers, shocked and scared, started questioning the hermit about what was happening. The hermit revealed that the child was possessed by a witch who had been burned alive 70 years ago on charges of theft. The hermit explained that it was none other than the child's grandfather who had ordered her punishment. The witch had returned to seek revenge because she had been pregnant when she was burned alive, and the innocent child in her womb had also perished. This was why she wanted to give the child of that lineage a painful death to complete her vengeance. After hearing the story, the family begged the hermit to save their child. Pleading and crying, they asked for his mercy. The hermit, using his intense spiritual power and chanting mantras, finally exorcised the witch from the innocent child. Within moments, the child began to return to his normal state. Everyone felt that the danger had passed forever, but little did they know, it was only the beginning. From the chest of terror comes a scary story that can rightly be called Mount Ka Kale, the Game of Death. It's a ghostly game in which many embraced death. In a corner of a city, there was a haunted house. All the townspeople were aware of the dread surrounding it. For several acres around it, no other houses were built. In fact, no one wanted to live near it. One day, a television serial director decides to shoot a live recording in that haunted house, naming it Mount Ka-Kale. In this game, selected participants would have to spend the entire night inside the haunted house, with cameras installed in every room to capture their moments of fear. In the end, the participant who survives the night without fear would win a prize of 1 crore rupees. The serial director announces the game across the city. However, he receives a notice from the administration, stating that permission to shoot in that house cannot be granted as it falls under a danger zone. Being a renowned figure, the serial director personally guarantees the safety of the participants. After agreeing to certain conditions and doubling his expenses, he manages to secure permission from the authorities to shoot in the haunted house. Once the approval is received, posters of Mount Ka-Kale are put up all over the city. Though the game was set to happen in the city, it filled people with more dread than excitement. Everyone in town was convinced that those who participated in the program would not survive. Yet, the world is full of all kinds of people. Tempted by the prize money, a few individuals decide to participate. Each participant is assigned a number and given an electric bracelet. If they feel scared, they can press the button on the bracelet to exit the program. There were 12 boys and 3 girls among the participants. During the day, cameras were installed in the rooms of the building, as ghostly entities were believed to wreak havoc in the rooms at night, making it nearly impossible for anyone to enter after dark. One by one, the participants enter the building. Each participant selects a room according to their number and locks the door from the inside, throwing the key outside. The locks on the doors were electronic. The bracelets had buttons that could unlock the doors, but this detail was not revealed to the participants. If any participant unlocked their door, they would be disqualified, and this would be visible in the camera recording. Speakers were installed in all the rooms to give instructions to the participants. Through these, they were told to lock their doors quickly and throw the keys under the doors. Afterward, the room lights would be turned off. Following the instructions, all the participants locked their doors and threw the keys outside. The cameras were equipped for night mode recording, so even though the rooms were dark, everything was visible to the viewers on television screens. Soon, the terror begins. One of the girls suddenly screams in her room. She feels as though someone is choking her, and she starts to struggle. Within moments, she faints out of fear, leaving the live audience watching the serial in panic. One by one, the participants begin to face ghostly attacks. Strangely enough, it was evident from the camera recordings that the participants were harming themselves. Some were scratching their faces, others were choking themselves, and some were even banging their heads against the walls. As the audience's fear grows, government officials arrive near the building. The program had been permitted under certain conditions, including the provision of immediate medical assistance if needed. Seeing the participants getting injured in the live recordings, demands to stop the program begin to rise. Overnight, the pressure on the administration mounts. The telecast of the program is ordered to be stopped immediately. As the broadcast ceases, efforts begin to save the participants. Fire brigade trucks reach the building, but even the firefighters do not dare to enter the haunted structure at night. Everyone stands outside, witnessing the tragic deaths of the participants, aware of the building's bloody history. Using the speakers in the rooms, the serial director instructs the participants to press the button on their bracelets to come out, but none of the participants hear the instructions. Moreover, they were too out of control to press the buttons. Before long, all the participants commit suicide in the live recording. However, everyone knew it was the ghosts that orchestrated the massacre. By morning, the bodies are retrieved, and the serial director is sentenced to several years in prison along with heavy compensation. The building is permanently declared a no-visit zone, and with this, the story ends.